I am Marcus, 31 years old, and my own sister sued me for $120,000 because she couldn't keep her secrets, or her legs, closed. Before I tell you how I walked out of that courtroom while her entire life crumbled into dust behind me, let me know where you guys are watching from in the comments. I always love seeing how far these stories travel. It started on a Tuesday. Tuesdays were usually my busiest days. I was sitting in my apartment, the one my family didn't know I owned. To them, I was probably renting a closet-sized room in a basement somewhere, scraping by on instant noodles and hope. The reality was a little different. I was sitting in a Herman Miller Aeron chair, looking out of floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a panoramic view of the city skyline. On the 3 monitors curved around me, lines of code were cascading like a digital waterfall. I wasn't just playing games. I was finalizing the security architecture for a new indie game studio I had co-founded 3 years ago. We had just secured a partnership that pushed our valuation into the 8-figure range. I wasn't just a coder. I was the phantom owner. But my family, they didn't know that. To them, if you didn't put on a suit and drive to a glass office building at 8 a.m., you weren't working. My phone buzzed against the mahogany desk. It was a notification from the fam, the group chat that consisted of my parents, Robert and Linda, and my younger sister, Alicia. I usually ignored it. That chat was mostly my mother posting pictures of her garden or my father complaining about politics. But today, the preview message caught my eye. It was from Alicia. Happy late birthday to my big brother. Don't forget to come out of the cave once in a while. I frowned. My birthday was 2 weeks ago. They had forgotten it then, and apparently this was how they were remembering it now. I unlocked the phone and opened the chat. Below her text was a meme. It was a crude, cartoonish drawing of a morbidly obese man sitting in a dark room, surrounded by empty pizza boxes and soda cans, wearing a headset, screaming at a computer screen. The caption on the meme read, "The Unemployed Gamer. Mom, can I borrow $10?" I felt a cold, hard knot form in my stomach. It wasn't the meme itself. I've seen worse on the internet. It was the malice behind it. Alicia was 29. She was a corporate lawyer at a mid-sized firm. She made a good salary, drove a leased BMW, and wore suits that cost more than my first car. She thrived on this dynamic. She was the golden child, the success story, the one who did everything right. I was the foil, the disappointment, the unemployed gamer. I waited. I watched the 3 dots of someone typing appear. It was my mother. Haha. Oh, Alicia, stop teasing him. But really, Marcus, have you looked at those job listings I sent you? Uncle Jerry says the warehouse is hiring. Then my father chimed in with a thumbs-up emoji. I stared at the screen. The hum of my server rack in the closet seemed to grow louder. I looked at my bank account on the second monitor. The balance was a number my father would have to work 10 lifetimes to achieve. I could buy Uncle Jerry's warehouse. I could buy Alicia's firm. But I didn't say that. I never said that. Why? Because I learned a long time ago that money doesn't buy respect from people who are committed to misunderstanding you. If I told them I was rich, they wouldn't respect me. They would just ask for money. They would say I got lucky. They would say it wasn't real work. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I wanted to type, "I made more this morning before breakfast than Alicia makes in a month." But I didn't. I took a deep breath, the air conditioning of my penthouse filling my lungs. I realized I was done. I was 31 years old. I didn't need this. I didn't need the passive-aggressive jabs masked as jokes. I didn't need to be the punchline of their family narrative just to make Alicia feel better about her miserable marriage and high-stress job. I didn't type a retort. I didn't start an argument. I didn't defend myself. I tapped the 3 dots in the top right corner of the group chat settings. I scrolled down to the bottom. Ideally, I would have blocked them all, but I decided to start with a smaller step. Leave conversation. A confirmation box popped up. Are you sure? I tapped yes. The chat disappeared from my feed. The silence that followed was beautiful. I went back to work. I had a security patch to deploy. But of course, with my family, silence is never accepted. Silence is seen as defiance. About 20 minutes later, my phone rang. It was my mother. I let it go to voicemail. Then my father called. Voicemail. Then Alicia. I finally picked up for Alicia, mostly because I wanted to hear what excuse she would use. "What is your problem?" she snapped as soon as the connection opened. "No hello, no apology. Just aggression." "I'm working, Alicia. What do you want?" I said, my voice flat. "Working," she scoffed. "Right? You left the group chat. Mom is crying. She thinks she offended you. You're being so dramatic, Marcus. It was a joke." "It wasn't funny," I said. "And I'm tired of being the joke. I don't have time for this." "You have nothing but time," she yelled, her voice shrill. "You sit at home all day. I'm the one busting my ass in court, dealing with clients, paying a mortgage. You have no idea what real stress is. You're just embarrassed because I called you out." "I'm not embarrassed, Alicia. I'm bored. I'm bored of you, and I'm bored of this dynamic. Tell Mom I'm fine, but I'm not joining the chat again." "You are so selfish," she hissed. "You know, David and I were going to invite you to dinner this weekend, maybe try to help you with your situation. But forget it. Grow up, Marcus." She hung up. I looked at the phone and let out a short, dry laugh. My situation. I spun my chair around and looked out at the city. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in hues of purple and gold. I thought about Sarah, my fiancée. She was the only one who knew the truth. She was a pediatrician, brilliant and kind, and she despised my family with a passion she usually reserved for anti-vaxxers. She was away at a medical conference in Chicago, but I sent her a quick text. Left the family group chat. Alicia called to call me selfish. Typical Tuesday. She replied instantly. "Finally. Proud of you. Do you want me to bring you deep dish pizza or a restraining order when I get back?" "Pizza," I typed back. "Definitely pizza." I thought that was it. I thought I had simply set a boundary and that we would go through a few months of Cold War silence before the holidays forced a generic reconciliation. I was wrong. I had no idea that by leaving that chat, I had knocked over the first domino in a chain reaction that would destroy my sister's career. You see, Alicia wasn't just mean. She was careless. And she was arrogant. She believed that because she had a law degree, she was the smartest person in every room. She believed she was untouchable. But arrogance creates blind spots. And Alicia was about to walk right off a cliff she didn't even know was there. The real trouble started 3 weeks later. I hadn't spoken to any of them since the meme incident. I was enjoying the peace. My company had just successfully launched a beta test for our new RPG, and the user feedback was phenomenal. I was feeling good. Then my phone lit up. A direct text from Alicia. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't a family update. "Alicia, I need your help. It's urgent. I think someone hacked my files. Something important might get leaked." I stared at the message. The irony was so thick I could choke on it. The unemployed gamer was suddenly the first responder when the high-powered lawyer had a tech crisis. I didn't reply immediately. I let her sweat. 5 minutes later. "Alicia, Marcus, answer me. This is serious. I can't go to the firm's IT department. If they find out I was careless, I could lose my partnership track. You know computers. You have to help me." "You know computers. Not, you're a brilliant engineer," or, "I respect your skills. Just, you know computers." Like I was a teenager who knew how to reset a router. I leaned back in my chair, interlacing my fingers behind my head. I remembered the last time I helped her. I remembered the graduation dinner. I remembered the favor I did for her 3 years ago. The ghosts of the past rose up, standing between me and that text message. And this time I wasn't going to be the doormat. To understand why I didn't immediately jump to save my sister, you have to understand the graduation dinner. It was 5 years ago. Alicia had just graduated from law school. I had graduated with my master's in computer science/cybersecurity 2 years prior to that, but my graduation had been a quiet affair. My parents forgot to book a reservation at a nice restaurant, so we ended up eating at a chain diner near the campus. My father complained about the price of the burger, but for Alicia, it was a coronation. They booked a private room at the Gilded Lily, the most expensive steakhouse in the city. Crystal chandeliers, waiters in tuxedos, the works. The entire extended family was there. Aunt Maureen, Cousin Brenda, everyone. I sat at the end of the table near the kitchen door. My father stood up to give a toast, raising a glass of expensive Cabernet. To Alicia, he beamed, his face flushed with pride and wine. The first lawyer in the family. The one who actually made something of herself. We finally have a winner, folks. The table erupted in applause. I clapped too, forcing a smile. But the words stung. The one who actually made something of herself. As if my master's degree, which I paid for myself while working 2 jobs, was invisible. My mother chimed in, patting Alicia's hand. She's going to be a partner by 30. She's going to bring honor to this name. Unlike some people who spend their lives staring at screens. She shot a pointed look down the table at me. Aunt Maureen, usually the quiet one, looked uncomfortable. Marcus is doing well too. Isn't he, Linda? Didn't he just get that certification? Oh, computers. My mother dismissed with a wave of her hand, her diamond bracelet catching the light. It's a hobby, really, not a profession like law. When the bill came, it was astronomical. My father made a big show of reaching for his wallet, then paused. He looked at me. Marcus, he said, loud enough for the table to hear. You've been saving up, right? Since you don't have a wife or kids or a mortgage. Why don't you treat your sister? It's her big day. I froze. I was 26 at the time, working as a junior sysadmin, making decent money but not wealthy. That bill was easily $2,000. Dad, Come on, Alicia said, smirking. She was already drunk on champagne. Don't be cheap. It's the least you can do since you didn't get me a graduation gift. I had gotten her a gift. I bought her a high-end leather briefcase worth $400. It was sitting under the table, but the pressure of the room was heavy. Everyone was staring. The loser brother being asked to pay tribute to the golden sister. I paid the bill. I put it on my credit card, maxing it out. And you know what? Alicia didn't even say thank you. She just looked at the receipt and said, "Only 15% tip? Reckless." That was bad. But the incident 3 years ago was worse. Alicia had just started at her current firm. She was a junior associate, desperate to impress. She was working on a massive merger deal, and she had somehow managed to corrupt the encrypted database containing all the due diligence files the night before the deadline. She called me at 2 a.m., sobbing, hyperventilating. "Marcus, please. I'm gonna get fired. My life is over. I clicked on something I shouldn't have, and now everything is locked." I drove to her apartment in the middle of a rainstorm. I sat at her kitchen table with my laptop, bridging a connection to her work laptop. It was a ransomware attack, mild amateur hour stuff, but deadly for a law firm. She had clicked a phishing link in an email that looked like it came from a partner. I spent 6 hours fighting the code. I used my own custom scripts to bypass the encryption and recover the files without triggering the ransom demand. It was specialized, high-level work. A consultant would have charged her firm $10,000 for that night alone. By 8 a.m., I recovered 98% of the data. I was exhausted, my eyes burning. Alicia snatched the laptop from me. "Is it done?" "Yeah," I croaked. "It's done. You need to tell your IT security team about the phishing email, though, so they can patch the hole." "I can't tell them," she snapped. "They'll know I clicked it. I'll handle it." She rushed out the door without offering me coffee, without offering me gas money. 2 weeks later, at a family barbecue, I heard her bragging to Uncle Jerry. "Yeah, the system crashed," she was saying, holding a beer. "Total disaster. But I fixed it. I stayed up all night and rewrote the code myself. The partners were so impressed they gave me a bonus." My jaw dropped. "Alicia," I stepped in. "You rewrote the code?" She glared at me, her eyes hard. "It's a figure of speech, Marcus. God, why do you always have to be so literal? You're just jealous I got a bonus." My mother laughed. "Our Alicia, she can do anything. Lawyer and a computer genius." That was the moment something broke inside me. I realized then that to them, I was nothing more than a utility. A tool to be used when needed and discarded when inconvenient. My skills were fake until they needed them, and then they were theirs to claim credit for. So, sitting in my penthouse office, looking at Alicia's desperate text message about hacked files, I didn't feel the urge to be the hero. I felt the cold, hard resolve of a businessman dealing with a bad client. I picked up my phone and typed a reply. Marcus, you want me to look at it? Alicia, yes. OMG, thank you. I knew you'd help. I'll send you the login credentials for my cloud drive. I stopped her. Marcus, hold on. I run a business now, Alicia. If you want professional help, you need to pay my professional rate. My consulting fee is $300 an hour, minimum 4 hours paid up front, plus a rush fee of $500 because it's after business hours. I watched the chat bubble appear, disappear, then appear again. She was furious. Alicia, are you joking? I'm your sister. You're going to charge me? Marcus, you said I don't have a real job. Real jobs charge money. Do you represent family members in court for free? Alicia, that's different. That's my career. You're just playing on your computer. Stop being a jerk and help me. These files are sensitive. Sensitive. That word triggered my professional instincts. In the legal world, sensitive usually meant attorney-client privilege. But the way she wrote it, the hesitation felt different. Marcus, $1,700 upfront. Or call your firm's IT department. Those are your choices. Alicia, you are unbelievable. You're trying to extort me? Mom was right. You've always been jealous of me. You want to see me fail. Marcus, I don't care if you fail or succeed. Alicia, I just don't work for free for people who insult me. Good luck. I put the phone down. 10 minutes later, my mother called. I knew she would. The hierarchy of the family had been disturbed. The scapegoat was refusing to serve the golden child. I answered this time, putting it on speaker so I could continue coding. Hello, Mother. Marcus Anthony. Her voice was shrill. What is wrong with you? Your sister is in a crisis. She says she might lose her license if these files get out. Then she should hire a professional. I said calmly, typing a command line. She asked you, and I gave her my rate. Rate? She sounded like I had spoken in an alien language. Family doesn't charge family. You help her because she is your sister. She has worked so hard for this career. You sit at home all day doing whatever it is you do. You have the time. Why are you being so cruel? Mom, remember the meme? The unemployed gamer? Well, the unemployed gamer is busy playing on his keyboard right now. I can't be both a loser and her savior. You are petty, my mother spat. You are petty and jealous. You know, we always worried about you. We worried you wouldn't fit in. Now I see why. You don't care about anyone but yourself. I guess I learned from the best. I said, Goodbye, Mom. I hung up and blocked her number for the night. I felt a surge of adrenaline. It was the first time I had ever completely shut them down. Felt dangerous. Felt liberating. But as the night went on, a nagging feeling in my gut told me this wasn't over. Alicia said the files were sensitive. She was panicked. If it was just work files, she would be worried about the firm, but she sounded worried about herself. I was a white hat hacker and ethical security expert. My curiosity was piqued. I didn't hack her. That would be illegal and I wasn't stupid. But I did set up a few passive alerts on the dark web scanners I used for my company, tagging her name and her firm's name, just to see if anything popped up in the public dumps. For 3 days, nothing happened. Then the storm broke. It was Friday morning. I was drinking coffee, scrolling through a tech news aggregator. One of my alerts pinged. Then another. Then a dozen. It wasn't a dark web dump. It was a gossip blog. A local but popular legal industry rumor site. The headline read, Prominent associate at Davies and Associates caught in compromising client scandal. I clicked the link. My heart hammered against my ribs. There were photos. Not nude photos, but intimate ones. Selfies taken in a hotel room mirror. Alicia wearing a bathrobe kissing a man on the cheek. A man who was definitely not David, her husband. The man was older, silver hair, expensive watch. I recognized him instantly from the business pages. It was Graham Henderson, a real estate mogul, and one of Alicia's firm's biggest clients. Below the photos were screenshots of text messages. Alicia, he's so boring, G. I can't wait to get away from him and be with you at the Ritz tonight. Henderson, bring the red dress. And don't worry about the retainer fee, I'll handle the partners. It wasn't a hack of her work files. It was a leak of her personal affair. And it looked bad. It implied she was trading sex for legal retainers, or at least mixing the two in a way that violated about 50 ethical codes. My phone started ringing. It was David. I stared at the screen. David was a good guy. He was an accountant, quiet, kind, and completely browbeaten by Alicia. He didn't deserve this. I didn't answer. What could I say? Then, a text from Alicia popped up. Alicia? What did you do? I blinked. What did I do? Alicia, I know it was you. You're the only one I told about the hack. You stole the files and you leaked them because you hate me. You're dead, Marcus. You are dead. I sat back, stunned. She wasn't just in trouble. She was looking for a scapegoat, and she had just decided that I was the villain of her story. The accusation was insane, but in the twisted logic of my family, it made perfect sense. I was the computer guy. I was the jealous brother. Therefore, I must be the hacker. Within an hour of the blog post going live, my phone was practically vibrating off the desk. Alicia had clearly mobilized the flying monkeys. Cousin Brenda sent a text. How could you do this to your own sister? You're sick. Aunt Maureen, surprisingly, sent a question mark. Marcus? Is this true? I didn't respond to anyone. I took screenshots of everything. Rule number 1 of cybersecurity: log everything. Rule number 1 of surviving a narcissist: document everything. I called Sarah in Chicago. Did you see it? I asked. The photos? Sarah sounded breathless. Marcus, holy crap. She's cheating on David with Henderson? That guy is like 60. Yeah. And she thinks I leaked it. What? Why? Because I refused to help her secure her cloud drive 3 days ago. Now she thinks I used that opportunity to hack her. That's crazy, Sarah said. You didn't even touch her computer. Logic doesn't apply here, Sarah. They need someone to blame. If it's an anonymous hacker, Alicia is a victim of cybercrime. But if it's her evil brother, she's a victim of a family vendetta. Plays better for sympathy. What are you going to do? I'm going to wait, I said. And I'm going to call Mr. Bramwell. Elias Bramwell was my corporate attorney. He handled the contracts for my game studio. He was a shark in a 3-piece suit who cost $800 an hour and was worth every penny. Bramwell? Sarah asked. Isn't that overkill? She threatened me, Sarah. She said, you're dead. Knowing Alicia, she's going to try to destroy me to save herself. I need to be ready. I was right. That evening, the doorbell rang. I checked the security camera feed on my monitor. It was my parents. And Alicia. Alicia looked like a wreck. Her eyes were puffy. Her hair was pulled back in a severe bun. And she wasn't wearing makeup. My mother looked terrified. My father looked like he wanted to punch someone. I considered not opening the door. But I knew they would just stand there and scream until the neighbors called the cops. And honestly, I wanted to hear what they had to say. I wanted it on record. I checked that my hallway security camera, which recorded audio, was active. Then I opened the door. You? My father growled, pushing past me into the foyer. You ungrateful, spiteful little bastard. Hello to you too, Dad, I said, stepping back. Nice to see you. Please, come into my home that you've never visited before. My mother looked around, her eyes widening as she took in the marble floors and the artwork. Marcus, this place? How do you afford this? Drugs, I said sarcastically. And stealing Alicia's money, apparently. Isn't that the narrative? Alicia stepped forward. She was shaking. You think this is funny? I am suspended, Marcus. The Bar Association has opened an investigation. David has left the house. He took the kids to his mother's. I'm sorry to hear that, Alicia, I said, and I meant it. I felt bad for the kids. But I didn't do it. Liar, she screamed, her voice cracking. I asked you for help. I told you someone was in my files. And then you refused, and 2 days later they're all over the internet? You're the only one with the skills to do this. Alicia, I said, keeping my voice calm. If I wanted to ruin you, I wouldn't post pictures of you kissing Henderson on a gossip blog. I would have sent your tax returns to the IRS. I have no interest in your love life. We know you're jealous, my father spat. You've always been jealous. She's a lawyer. She's successful. You sit here in this. He waved his hand around, struggled to find an insult. This rented apartment, playing games. You wanted to knock her down a peg. I own this apartment, Dad, I said quietly. He ignored me. Here is what is going to happen. He pulled a folded piece of paper out of his jacket pocket. We spoke to a PR crisis manager. If we can frame this as a malicious hack by a disgruntled family member who has a history of mental instability. I stared at him. Mental instability? It's the best way, my mother pleaded, stepping forward. She reached for my hand, but I pulled away. Marcus, honey, listen. Alicia has a reputation to protect. Her career is her life. If you admit that you had a lapse in judgment, that you were angry and hacked her, you want me to confess to a crime I didn't commit? I asked, my voice rising. Hacking is a felony, Mom. Revenge porn laws are real. We won't press charges. Alicia said quickly. I'll tell the firm not to press charges. We'll say it was a family dispute. We'll say you're seeking therapy. The Bar Association will go easy on me if I'm the victim of a cyberstalker. But if it looks like I was just careless with client data, I'm done. I looked at them. I looked at the three of them standing in my foyer, plotting to destroy my life to save hers. They were willing to brand me a felon. They were willing to label me mentally unstable. They were willing to torch my reputation, which, granted, they thought was non-existent, just to keep Alicia's golden facade from cracking. Let me get this straight, I said, my voice trembling with rage. You want me to sign a confession saying I hacked my sister and leaked her nudes, so that she can keep her job? It's not nudes, it's just kissing, Alicia corrected automatically. And yes, it's the only way to save the family name. The family name? I laughed. It was a dark, bitter sound. You mean your name? You cheated on your husband. Alicia, you violated attorney-client privilege. You did this. I made a mistake. Alicia screamed. I'm human, but you are nothing. You're a ghost. You don't have a career. You don't have a reputation. If you take the fall, nobody cares. You can just move. Start over. You are nothing. That was it. The final nail. Get out, I said. Marcus, be reasonable. My father warned, stepping closer aggressively. I said, get out. I roared. The sound echoed off the high ceilings. Get out of my house before I call the police and have you arrested for trespassing and attempted extortion. My father looked shocked. He had never seen me yell. I was the quiet one, the passive one. You'll regret this, Alicia hissed, her face contorted with hate. I'm going to sue you. I swear to God, Marcus. If you don't help me fix this, I will sue you for everything you have. Sue me, I said, opening the door. Please. I'd love to see you try. They left. My mother was crying. My father was cursing. Alicia was typing furiously on her phone. I slammed the door and locked it. Then I leaned against it, my heart pounding like a drum. I went straight to my computer. I exported the video footage from the hallway camera. I saved the text messages. I saved the call logs. Then I called Bramwell. Elias, I said when he picked up. It's Marcus. I need to put you on retainer for a personal matter. My sister is about to sue me. The lawyer sister? Bramwell asked. What for? Defamation. Invasion of privacy. and probably emotional distress. Did you do it? Bramwell asked. He was a lawyer. He didn't care about feelings, he cared about facts. No. Can we prove it? I'm a security architect, Elias, I said, looking at my monitors. I can prove what I didn't do, but I want to do more than that. I want to find out who did. Good, Bramwell said. Let them file. Then we get discovery. Let's go hunting. The lawsuit arrived 3 days later. A process server caught me in the lobby of my building. It was thick. Alicia Vance versus Marcus Vance. She wasn't playing around. She was suing me for $120,000 in damages, alleging that I had maliciously accessed her private cloud storage, altered and fabricated digital evidence, and disseminated defamatory material to cause professional harm. She was asking for damages for lost wages, therapy costs, and reputational rehabilitation. I sat in Bramwell's office, the leather chair squeaking as I shifted. Bramwell was a man in his 50s, with salt and pepper hair and eyes that looked like they could cut glass. He flipped through the filing, shaking his head. This is sloppy, he muttered. She drafted this in a hurry. Look at this allegation. Altered and fabricated. She's admitting the photos are real by suing for invasion of privacy, but claiming they are fake to sue for defamation. You can't have it both ways. She's desperate, I said. She's trying to throw enough mud against the wall that the Bar Association pauses their investigation until the civil suit is settled. Well, Bramwell closed the folder. She picked the wrong target. Marcus, I need you to do a forensic analysis of your own network. Show me that you never connected to her devices. And I need you to find the leak. I'm already on it, I said. I've been tracking the metadata from the leaked photos on the blog. The EXIF data was scrubbed, but the timestamp on the upload matches a specific IP address. Can you trace it? I did. It's a residential IP. Comcast provider, but it's proxied. Whoever did this wasn't a master hacker, but they knew how to use a VPN. Keep digging, Bramwell said. We have a court date in 3 weeks. Emergency hearing for a preliminary injunction. She wants a gag order to stop you from leaking more. We'll use that hearing to end this. The next 3 weeks were a nightmare. My family went on a full PR offensive. My mother posted on Facebook about the betrayal of a son. Cousin Brenda started a rumor that I was an incel who hated women. I stayed inside. I worked. Sarah came back from Chicago and was my rock. She held me when I woke up from nightmares where my father was screaming at me. They aren't your family anymore, she told me one night, stroking my hair. They are your abusers. You have to stop protecting them. I'm not protecting them, I said. You are. You're holding back. You know you could destroy them with what you know about their finances, about Dad's gambling. But you don't. She was right. I still had that instinct to protect them. But as the court date approached, that instinct faded. I focused on the data. I used my tools, the ones I built for tracking state-sponsored hackers, to trace the leak. I found the source. And when I saw the name associated with the digital footprint, I didn't feel triumph. I felt a cold shock. It wasn't a hacker. It wasn't a stranger. I called Bramwell immediately. I have it, I said. And Elias, you're going to want to subpoena a man named Arthur P. Miller. Who is that? He's a private investigator, I said. And wait until you hear who hired him. The morning of the hearing, it was raining. A gray, miserable Seattle rain. I put on my best suit. A custom-tailored navy wool suit that cost more than my father's car. I drove my Audi, my daily driver, keeping the Porsche in the garage for now, to the courthouse. My family was there. They were sitting on a bench outside the courtroom. My mother, father, and Alicia. Alicia was wearing a white suit, looking like the picture of innocence. When she saw me, her eyes narrowed. She scanned my suit, my watch. Confusion flickered in her eyes, but she masked it quickly. You can still stop this, Marcus, my father said as I walked past. He didn't look at me, he looked at the floor. Just sign the paper. Admit you were angry. We can make the lawsuit go away. Save it for the judge, Dad, I said without breaking stride. Inside the courtroom, the atmosphere was heavy. Judge Holloway was presiding. I knew of her. She was tough, no nonsense, and had a background in tech law. That was good for me. Alicia's lawyer was a guy named Chad. I knew him from high school. He was loud, aggressive, and not very bright. He looked at Bramwell, a legend in the city, with visible nervousness. "All right," Judge Holloway said, adjusting her glasses. "We are here for a preliminary injunction and a motion to dismiss. Plaintiff, state your case." Chad stood up. "Your Honor, the defendant, Marcus Vance, is a disgruntled, unemployed individual with advanced computer skills. He harbors deep jealousy toward his sister, my client. We have reason to believe he hacked her private cloud account and disseminated intimate images to destroy her reputation. We are asking for a restraining order and immediate surrender of his electronic devices." Alicia sniffled. It was a good performance. She wiped a fake tear. Judge Holloway looked at Bramwell. "Defense." Bramwell stood up slowly. He didn't look at Chad. He looked at the judge. "Your Honor, my client is not unemployed. He is the majority shareholder and chief technology officer of Ether Studios, a software company valued at $40 million. The silence in the room was absolute. I heard my mother gasp behind me. Alicia's head snapped up. "Furthermore," Bramwell continued, his voice smooth as silk, "Mr. Vance did not hack his sister. In fact, no hacking occurred at all. The plaintiff's files were not stolen. They were intercepted on an unsecured public Wi-Fi network by a third party." "Objection!" Chad yelled. "Speculation. I have the forensic logs," Bramwell said, lifting a thick binder. "And I have a witness." Judge Holloway leaned forward. "Call your witness, Mr. Bramwell." "The defense calls David Vance." Alicia froze. She turned around. The doors at the back of the courtroom opened. David walked in. He looked tired. He looked sad. But he didn't look at Alicia. He walked straight to the witness stand. The air in the courtroom seemed to vanish. I could hear the buzz of the fluorescent lights. Alicia had turned a ghostly shade of pale. She gripped the edge of the table so hard her knuckles were white. My parents, sitting in the gallery, were whispering furiously to each other. David took the oath. "Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?" "I do," David said. His voice was steady. Bramwell approached the stand. "Mr. Vance, you are the husband of the plaintiff, Alicia Vance, correct?" "Soon-to-be ex-husband," David corrected. "But yes. Mr. Vance, were you aware of the leak of your wife's private files?" "Yes." "Did you leak them?" "No," David said. "I didn't leak them to the blog. But I am the reason they exist." "Can you explain?" David took a breath. He looked at me for a split second, a look of apology, before turning his gaze to the judge. "I suspected Alicia was having an affair for months," David said. "She was always working late. She was cold. She was hiding her phone. I asked her about it and she called me paranoid. She told me I was crazy. She gaslit me." He paused. "So, 2 months ago, I hired a private investigator, Mr. Arthur Miller." Bramwell nodded. "And what did Mr. Miller find?" "He followed her," David said. "He followed her to the Ritz-Carlton on 3 separate occasions. He saw her meet with Graham Henderson." Alicia let out a strangled sob. "David, please." "Order," Judge Holloway snapped, banging her gavel. David continued, his voice hardening. "Mr. Miller is thorough. He specializes in digital surveillance. He sat in the lobby of the Ritz-Carlton. Apparently, Alicia was using the hotel's guest Wi-Fi to send messages to Henderson. She didn't use a VPN. She didn't use encryption. Mr. Miller used a packet sniffer, a standard tool, to intercept the traffic on the open network. I watched Alicia. She was a lawyer. She knew what this meant. She hadn't been hacked by some genius supervillain in a dark room. She had been caught because she was too lazy to turn off her Wi-Fi while sexting her lover in a hotel lobby. "He intercepted the photos?" Bramwell asked. "Yes, and the texts. He sent them to me as proof of infidelity for the divorce proceedings. So how did they end up on the blog? Bramwell asked. That was my mistake, David admitted. I left the file open on our home computer. I was distraught. I was drinking. I sent the file to my divorce lawyer, but I think I might have forwarded it to an email address that looked like a legal tip line. Or maybe Mr. Miller did it to pressure Henderson. I don't know for sure who clicked send to the blog, but I know for a fact that Marcus had nothing to do with it. Bramwell turned to the judge. Your Honor, we have the affidavit from Mr. Miller confirming he intercepted the data via public Wi-Fi interception, which, while legally gray for him, proves definitively that the hack did not originate from my client. Furthermore, the plaintiff, Mrs. Vance, is a lawyer. She knows or should know the risks of unsecured networks. To blame her brother, sue him for damages, and drag him into court is not just an error. It is malicious prosecution. Bramwell turned to Alicia. Mrs. Vance knew she was careless. She knew she was caught. She needed a scapegoat to tell her firm so she wouldn't look incompetent. So she chose the brother she has bullied her entire life. That's a lie, Alicia shrieked, standing up. He's lying. David is lying to hurt me because I'm leaving him. Sit down, counselor, Judge Holloway barked. Her eyes were blazing. Bramwell wasn't done. Your Honor, I also have this. He pulled out a USB drive. This is a recording from the security system at Mr. Marcus Vance's home, dated 3 weeks ago. It shows the plaintiff and her parents attempting to coerce my client into signing a false confession. Chad, Alicia's lawyer, looked like he wanted to crawl under the table. Objection. We haven't seen this evidence. It was submitted to discovery this morning, Bramwell said coolly. Play it. The large screen in the courtroom flickered to life. The audio was crisp. Alicia's voice filled the room. If it looks like I was just careless with client data, I'm done. You are nothing. You're a ghost. If you take the fall, nobody cares. My father's voice. Just sign the paper. Admit you were angry. The courtroom was silent. The video ended. Judge Holloway took off her glasses. She looked at Alicia with an expression of pure disgust. Mrs. Vance, the judge said, her voice dangerously quiet. Did you just try to use this court as a weapon to cover up your own professional negligence and infidelity? Alicia was trembling. She couldn't speak. And the judge continued, looking at the parents. You attempted to suborn perjury? You tried to blackmail your own son into confessing to a felony. Chad stood up. Your Honor, my client requests a recess. Denied, Judge Holloway snapped. This case is dismissed with prejudice. But I am not done. She turned to the court stenographer. I want a transcript of these proceedings sent immediately to the State Bar Association. Mrs. Vance, you have admitted on tape to conspiring to frame an innocent man for a cybercrime. You have filed a frivolous lawsuit in my courtroom based on perjury. Your Honor, please, Alicia sobbed. My career. It's all I have. You should have thought of that before you used the law as a toy, Judge Holloway said. I am sanctioning you for the full amount of the defendant's legal fees. You will pay Mr. Vance's attorney costs. And I am referring this matter to the district attorney for potential criminal charges regarding the attempted extortion. She banged the gavel. The sound was like a gunshot. Get out of my courtroom. It was over. I stood up. I felt light, weightless. Alicia collapsed into her chair, burying her face in her hands. David stood up and walked out without looking back. My parents were frozen. My father looked at me, his face pale. He opened his mouth to speak, maybe to yell, maybe to beg. I didn't give him the chance. I turned my back on them and shook Bramwell's hand. Good work, Elias, I said. Pleasure, he smiled. That video was the nail in the coffin. But the husband? That was the hammer. I walked out of the courtroom. As I pushed through the heavy oak doors, I heard Alicia wailing. It wasn't a sad sound. It was the sound of a spoiled child who had finally been told no. The hallway outside the courtroom was cold, but I felt a warmth spreading through my chest. It was the warmth of vindication. I walked toward the elevators. I just wanted to get to my car, drive to Sarah's, and order that deep dish pizza. But of course, it wasn't going to be that clean of a break. Marcus, wait. It was my mother. She was running down the hallway, her heels clicking frantically on the marble. My father was trailing behind her, looking older than I had ever seen him. I stopped and turned around. I didn't say anything. I just looked at them. Marcus, my mother panted, catching up to me. She reached out to grab my arm, but I took a step back. She flinched. Marcus, you have to fix this. I stared at her. Fix what? Your sister, she cried. Did you hear the judge? She's going to be disbarred. She's going to lose her license. And the money. She has to pay your legal fees? How is she going to afford that? David is leaving her. That sounds like a series of problems Alicia created for herself. I said. How can you be so cold? My father demanded, finding his voice. She is your flesh and blood. You destroyed her. You brought that video into court. You humiliated us. I told the truth, I said. You wanted me to lie. You wanted me to be a felon. Remember? You stood in my house and told me I was nothing, so it wouldn't matter if I took the fall. We were desperate, my mother sobbed. We were trying to protect the family. No, I said, my voice hard. You were trying to protect Alicia, because Alicia is your trophy, and I am your trash can. You throw everything you don't want to deal with onto me, but the trash can is full, Mom. I'm done. We're your parents, she wailed. We raised you. You housed me, I corrected. You didn't raise me. You tolerated me. I pressed the elevator button. The arrow lit up. Marcus, my father said, his voice changing tone. He was trying to be authoritative, the patriarch again. Listen to me. You have money. We heard the lawyer. You have millions? Is that true? I laughed. Of course. That was the other shoe dropping. Yes, I said. Then you can pay the fees, he said, as if it were obvious. You can pay your own lawyer, and you can help Alicia get set up. She's going to need an apartment if David kicks her out. You owe us that much for the humiliation you caused today. I looked at him with genuine curiosity. Do you actually hear yourself? You tried to frame me for a crime an hour ago, and now you're asking for a handout. The elevator doors opened. I stepped inside. Marcus, my mother screamed. If you walk away now, don't you dare come back. You are out of this family. I held the closed door button. Mom, I said, looking her in the eye as the doors slid shut. I left this family 3 weeks ago. You just didn't notice. The doors closed, cutting off her screaming face. I rode the elevator down to the parking garage in silence. When I got to my car, I sat in the driver's seat for a long time. My hands were shaking, not from fear but from the adrenaline crash. I pulled out my phone. I had a text from Sarah. How did it go? I typed back, we won. Total victory. Then I blocked my parents' numbers. I blocked Alicia's number. I blocked cousin Brenda. I blocked Aunt Maureen, just in case. I drove out of the garage and into the rain. The next few weeks were a blur of legal paperwork, but the good kind. Judge Holloway was true to her word. The transcript was sent to the bar. Within 48 hours, Alicia's license was suspended pending a full ethics hearing. Davies and Associates, her firm, fired her publicly. They released a statement condemning her actions and distancing themselves from the scandal. Mr. Henderson, the client she slept with, dropped the firm and sued them for breach of confidentiality. Alicia was radioactive. David moved fast. He filed for divorce citing adultery. Because of the clear evidence, the photos and texts, he got temporary full custody of the kids. He kept the house. Alicia was forced to move into a motel because my parents didn't have the space or the money to house her comfortably. And then came the bill. Judge Holloway ordered Alicia to pay $35,000 in legal fees to me. I knew she didn't have it. Her assets were frozen by the divorce. She was unemployed. Bramwell called me a week after the judgment. So, Bramwell said. We can garnish her future wages, if she ever gets a job. Or we can put a lien on her car. Forget the money, I said. I don't need it, but make sure the judgment stays on her record. I want her to see it every time she tries to apply for a credit card. You're a tough client, Marcus, Bramwell laughed. I'm learning, I said. Life began to settle. With the toxic noise of my family gone, I felt lighter. My company, Ether Studios, launched our game globally. It hit the top of the Steam charts in 24 hours. I bought the Porsche, a 911 Turbo S in deep blue. Not because I needed to show off, but because I had wanted one since I was 16, and I finally allowed myself to have nice things without feeling guilty. I thought I was completely free. But the universe has a funny way of testing you one last time. About 2 months after the trial, I was at a coffee shop downtown, meeting with a potential investor. I was wearing a hoodie and jeans, my uniform, but I had parked the Porsche right out front. I saw a woman working behind the counter. She was wearing a green apron and a visor. She looked exhausted. It was Alicia. She was wiping down the espresso machine. She looked older. The arrogance was gone from her posture. She looked broken. She looked up and saw me. She froze. I froze too. For a second, I thought she would scream. I thought she would throw a cup at me. But she didn't. She just looked at me. Then she looked out the window at the Porsche. Then back at me. There was no hate in her eyes anymore. Just a profound, crushing shame. I could have walked up to the counter. I could have ordered a coffee and made her serve me. I could have tipped her $100 just to be cruel. But I realized I didn't care. The anger was gone. The need for revenge was gone. I turned around and walked out of the shop without ordering. I got in my car and drove away. I was finally the protagonist of my own life, not the supporting character in hers. Time has a funny way of moving when you remove the source of your pain. It speeds up. For 31 years, my life felt like it was stuck in a loop of seeking validation and being rejected. But in the 12 months following the trial, my life moved at the speed of light. Ether Studios wasn't just a success. It became a cultural phenomenon. Our flagship game, Echoes of the Void, won Game of the Year. I went from being the phantom owner to being featured on the cover of Wired magazine. The headline read, "The Gamer Who Beat the System. How Marcus Vance Built an Empire from His Bedroom." That magazine cover was the final nail in the coffin of my anonymity. And, inevitably, it was the beacon that drew the moths back to the flame. It was 3 weeks before my wedding to Sarah. We weren't doing anything overly extravagant. No castles or 10-tiered cakes. But we were holding the ceremony at a private vineyard in Napa Valley. It was intimate, expensive, and strictly invitation only. I was in my office reviewing the security protocols for the event. Yes, I hired private security for my own wedding. Trauma makes you cautious. When my assistant, Leo, walked in, he looked uncomfortable. "Marcus," Leo said, holding a thick envelope. "This came via courier. It bypassed the mailroom screening because it was marked legal documents. But it's not from a law firm." I took the envelope. It was heavy, cream-colored stationery. I recognized the handwriting immediately. It was my mother's calligraphy. The same handwriting she used to write those passive-aggressive Christmas cards detailing Alicia's achievements while leaving me out. I shouldn't have opened it. I should have shredded it. But curiosity is a dangerous thing. I slit the envelope open. Inside wasn't a lawsuit. It was a letter and a photo. The photo was of me, aged 7, sitting on a bicycle. My father was holding the back of the seat. It was one of the few happy memories I had. I unfolded the letter. "My dearest son, I saw the magazine. Your father and I. We are so proud. We always knew you were special. We always knew your genius just needed time to bloom. We have been doing a lot of thinking since the misunderstanding in court. We realize we made mistakes. We were under so much pressure with Alicia. You have to understand. Parents sometimes lose their way when they are trying to protect their children. But we never stopped loving you. We heard through Aunt Maureen that you were getting married. A wedding is a time for family. A time for forgiveness. Please, Marcus, don't start this new chapter without your mother and father. We are old. We are tired. Let us be part of your joy. We don't want money. We just want our son back. Love, Mom and Dad. I read it twice. The first time, I felt a pang of guilt. That old programming, deep in my brain, whispered, "They're your parents. They're old. Maybe they really have changed." But the second time I read it, I saw the manipulation. The misunderstanding in court. They didn't call it perjury. They didn't call it extortion. They called it a misunderstanding. "We always knew you were special." A lie. They called me a loser for a decade. "We don't want money." That was the biggest tell. If they have to say they don't want money, they definitely want money. I tossed the letter onto my desk. "Leo," I said. "Yeah, boss. Add 2 more guards to the wedding perimeter, and give them photos of Robert and Linda Vance. If they show up, they are to be escorted off the property immediately. No scenes. Just gone." Leo nodded. "Understood." I thought that was the end of it. But the real revelation, the final twist that would rewrite my entire understanding of my childhood, came 2 days later. Aunt Maureen asked to meet me for lunch. Maureen was my mother's younger sister. She was the black sheep before I took that title. She divorced young, never remarried, and worked as a librarian. She was the only one who didn't pile on during the group chat roast sessions. But she never stood up for me either. She was a silent observer. I met her at a bistro near my office. She looked nervous. She was clutching her handbag like it contained state secrets. "Thank you for seeing me, Marcus," she said, ordering an iced tea. "I know you've cut everyone off. I didn't think you'd come. You were the one who gave Bramwell the recording of the parents trying to coerce me," I said. "I never thanked you for that. You saved me." Maureen smiled, a sad, thin smile. "I didn't save you, Marcus. You saved yourself. I just gave you the weapon." She took a sip of tea, her hand trembling slightly. "I saw the invitation to the wedding. Thank you. I'll be there. But I wanted to give you something before the big day. A wedding gift." She reached into her bag and pulled out a small, leather-bound journal. It looked old. "What is this?" "It's your father's ledger," she said. "Or rather, a copy of it. I found it when I was helping them downsize their house last month. They're selling the house, Marcus. They're broke." "I figured," I said. "Between the legal fees and Alicia being unemployed, they must be bleeding cash." "It's not just the legal fees," Maureen said. Her eyes locked onto mine, intense and serious. "Marcus, there's something you need to know about Alicia, about Henderson, about why your parents were so desperate to cover up that affair." I frowned. Alicia was cheating. She wanted a sugar daddy. "It's not complicated." "It wasn't just Alicia," Maureen whispered. "It was your father." I opened the ledger. It was a list of loans and investments. Bad investments. Failed real estate flips. Gambling debts. And there, on the last page, was a name, Graham Henderson. Next to it was a figure, $150,000. "Your father borrowed money from Henderson 3 years ago," Maureen explained. "He wanted to invest in a condo development that turned out to be a Ponzi scheme. He lost it all. Henderson is a shark. He was going to call in the loan. He was going to take the house, the cars, everything." I felt a chill run down my spine. "What does this have to do with Alicia?" "Think Marcus," Maureen said, her voice dropping. "Alicia was a junior associate. Henderson was a client. Your father, he encouraged Alicia to take the Henderson account. He pushed her. He told her to be nice to him. He told her that if she kept Henderson happy, maybe the debt would go away. Or at least, he'd be lenient." My stomach turned. I felt like I was going to be sick. "Are you saying—" I couldn't even finish the sentence. "I'm saying they pimped her out," Maureen said bluntly. "Maybe not explicitly. They didn't sign a contract. But the pressure, the comments, be charming, Alicia. Wear that red dress, Alicia. Mr. Henderson is the key to our future, Alicia. They groomed her to be his mistress so your father wouldn't lose his shirt." I sat back, the bistro spinning around me. Suddenly, Alicia wasn't just the villain. She was still a narcissist, yes. She was still cruel to me. But she was also a product. A product manufactured by Robert and Linda Vance to be sold to the highest bidder. That's why they were so terrified of the leak, I realized. Not just because of her career, but because if Henderson got exposed, he might retaliate and call in the debt immediately. They weren't protecting Alicia's reputation. They were protecting their own financial survival. Exactly, Maureen said. And when the leak happened, they needed a scapegoat. You. If you took the fall, Henderson remains anonymous. Alicia keeps her job, and the arrangement continues. I closed my eyes. It was darker than I ever imagined. Why are you telling me this now? I asked. Because. Maureen reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I see you holding on to that last little bit of guilt. That little voice asking if you were too harsh on them. I wanted you to know the truth so you can walk down that aisle with a clean heart. You didn't abandon them, Marcus. You escaped a burning building. I looked at the ledger one last time. Then I looked at Maureen. Thank you, I said, and I meant it. That lingering guilt? That tiny shred of filial piety that made me hesitate when I read their letter? It evaporated. It was gone. I stood up. I have a wedding to get to. The wedding day was perfect. The weather in Napa was crisp and golden. The vineyard was lush. Sarah looked like an angel in her dress. But the most beautiful part of the ceremony wasn't the flowers or the music. It was the seating arrangement. The front row on the groom's side, usually reserved for parents, was empty of Vances. Instead, sitting there was Aunt Maureen. Next to her was Leo, my assistant. Next to him was Bramwell, my lawyer, who had become a mentor. And filling the rest of the rows were my friends, my developers, my team. People who respected me. People who didn't want anything from me other than my friendship. When the officiant asked, "Who presents this woman?" and Sarah's father stood up, beaming with pride, I didn't feel a pang of loss for my own father. I felt relief. During the reception, I gave a speech. I stood with a glass of champagne, looking out at the sea of faces. They say you can't choose your family, I said into the microphone. Sarah squeezed my hand. But I disagree. Biology is just a suggestion. Family are the people who show up for you when you have nothing to offer but yourself. Family are the people who defend you when you aren't in the room. Looking around tonight, I realize I am the richest man in the world. And it has nothing to do with the stock price of my company. Cheers erupted. I saw Aunt Maureen wiping a tear. I danced with Sarah until my feet hurt. We laughed. We drank. We celebrated. At one point, late in the evening, one of the security guards approached me. He leaned in and whispered, "Mr. Vance, just so you know, an older couple in a Honda Accord tried to enter the main gate about 20 minutes ago. Claimed to be your parents." I didn't stop swaying to the music. "And we showed them the photos you provided. We told them it was a private event and they weren't on the list. They argued for a minute, tried to give us a letter. We refused it." "Did they leave?" "Yes, sir. They turned around and drove off." "Good," I said. "Thank you." I turned back to Sarah. She looked at me, a question in her eyes. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Yeah." I smiled, pulling her close. "Just a minor glitch. It's been patched." I was sitting in the nursery, rocking my 3-month-old daughter, Emily, to sleep. The room was painted a soft yellow. The only light came from a dim lamp in the corner. It was 3 a.m. I was exhausted. My shirt was stained with spit up. I hadn't slept more than 4 hours in a stretch for weeks, and I was happier than I had ever been in my life. I looked down at Emily's sleeping face. She was so small, so dependent. I thought about my father. I thought about the cycle. For generations, trauma had flowed through my family like a hereditary disease. My father was hard on me because his father was hard on him. He used me because he felt the world used him. He sacrificed his daughter because he couldn't sacrifice his ego. I looked at Emily's tiny hand gripping my finger. "It stops with us," I whispered to her. "It ends here." I would never demand she be a golden child. I would never make her a scapegoat. If she wanted to be a lawyer, great. If she wanted to be a gamer, great. If she wanted to be an artist, great. My job wasn't to mold her into a trophy. My job was to help her become whoever she was supposed to be. I had kept tabs on them from a distance, just enough to know I was safe. Alicia never got her license back. The Bar Association takes a dim view of perjury and framing innocent people. She worked at that coffee shop for 6 months, then moved to a different state. Last I heard, she was working as a paralegal, a glorified secretary, at a sketchy personal injury firm in Nevada. She lived in a studio apartment. She was seeing her kids every other weekend, supervised. It was a hard fall. But sometimes you have to hit the bottom to realize the ladder you were climbing was leaning against the wrong wall. Maybe, just maybe, she was learning humility. But I wasn't going to stick around to find out. My parents sold the house. They moved into a small condo in a retirement community. Without Alicia's high-flying career to brag about, and without my failure to complain about, they lost their social currency. Their friends drifted away. They were just two bitter old people sitting in a small room, wondering why their children never called. They had bet everything on the golden child and lost. They had discarded the scapegoat, only to watch him become the king. Poetic justice isn't always a lightning bolt. Sometimes, it's just the quiet, slow realization that you are alone because of your own choices. I put Emily down in her crib. She sighed in her sleep. I walked out to the balcony where Sarah was waiting with 2 glasses of wine. We looked out over the city lights. "She asleep?" Sarah asked. "Out like a light." "You're a good dad, Marcus," Sarah said, resting her head on my shoulder. "I'm trying," I said. "I have a detailed manual of what not to do thanks to Robert and Linda." Sarah laughed. "See? They were useful for something after all." We stood there in silence for a while. "Do you ever miss them?" Sarah asked. "Not the abuse, but just having a family?" "I don't miss them," I said honestly. "I mourn them. I mourn the parents I should have had. I mourn the brother-sister relationship Alicia and I could have had if they hadn't pitted us against each other. But I don't miss the people they actually were." I took a sip of wine. "I realized something," I continued. "Forgiveness isn't about letting them back in. It's about letting go of the hope that the past could have been different. I've accepted it. They are who they are. And I am who I am." "And who are you?" Sarah teased. "I'm Marcus," I said. "I'm a husband. I'm a father. I'm a CEO. And yeah, I'm a gamer." I smiled. And I finally won the game. This story wasn't just about a lawsuit or a family feud. It was a dissection of a very specific, very toxic family dynamic that millions of people deal with every day. The golden child and the scapegoat. Here are the key takeaways I want you to carry with you. No is a complete sentence. You do not owe your family your time, your money, or your mental health simply because you share DNA. When toxic family members demand your help after disrespecting you, you have every right to set a boundary. Success is the best revenge. Marcus didn't scream or fight physically. He simply built a life so big and so successful that their insults couldn't reach him anymore. Don't waste energy trying to prove them wrong. Spend that energy proving yourself right. The family myth. We are taught that family is everything. But as Marcus said, biology is just a suggestion. True family are the people who respect you, support you, and love you without conditions. If your biological family hurts you, you are allowed to build a new one. Document everything. On a practical note, Marcus won because he kept receipts. In any conflict, especially with manipulative people, facts are your shield. Keep the texts. Save the emails. Record the calls, if legal. The truth only wins when you can prove it. I want to hear from you. Have you ever been the scapegoat in your family while a sibling was treated like royalty? How did you handle it? Did you break free like Marcus? Or are you still fighting that battle? Leave a comment below with your story, or just type "good" if you agree that toxic family members don't deserve a seat at your table. Thanks for watching, and remember, you are the protagonist of your own life. Don't let anyone else write your script.